What's up, guys? George Blecher here with Foxborough Rush. But hey, you want more around all the sports? Check out the latest episode of Boston Has Entered the Chat. Travis Thomas and I talk about Steve Belichick becoming the next defensive coordinator at UNC, obviously following his dad, Bill, down at Chapel Hill. We also break down the pros and cons of Jerod Mayo possibly remaining the Patriots head coach. And we got a nice preview for you guys of the Packers and Saints matchup on Monday Night Football, including a talk about the Packers with a win, they get in, but how important next week's matchup against the Vikings in for seeding and helping them possibly get to the Super Bowl. All that and more on Boston Has Entered the Chat. That's wherever you get your podcast, Spotify, Apple, Amazon, and YouTube. And if you're watching on Neston's YouTube page, hit the subscribe button as well. But for now, let's get to Foxborough Rush. What's up, folks? How you doing?
Yeah.
George Blecher, Travis Thomas. Foxborough Rush, baby.
Yeah.
Patriots. You guys are wondering, why are we so happy? Well, there's two parts to that.
Okay.
The Patriots played a good half of football.
A good half.
The game was interesting.
Yeah.
The defense did show up, held Josh Allen under 200 total yards.
Facts.
And you know what?
What?
We're inching closer and closer to an answer, Trav.
Yeah.
Will Jerod Mayo remain the head coach of the Patriots beyond the season?
Yeah.
Defense put on a good performance today. Guys still play hard for him. We'll have more from Drake May in this show as well, but we're seeing this team show up for their head coach. 24-21 was the final. Patriots got out to that 14-0 lead, but did lose, so now 3-12. And all the way, by the way, Trav, why I'm happy?
Yep.
Patriots are picking number 2 overall.
Yeah, me too, buddy. Look, I think this was the best case scenario. Team showed up. Looked like for a half, they maybe could pull off an upset, but the most important thing, they didn't pull off an upset. They lost. So you keep that number 2 pick. You got to love it. Keep losing, so that sticks. Hey, maybe I'm crazy here, George. I think this is a moral victory Monday. I feel good about this. You lost the game, which is what I wanted. You didn't get slaughtered, which I thought was going to happen, and clearly the Bills thought the same thing. They were playing like, oh, all we got to do is show up. We got this. Wrong. So, and if you're Jerod Mayo, this is your calling card, because what else are you good at, really, besides nothing? So, hey, the team plays hard for you. They clearly like you. You haven't lost the locker room. They're still engaged. Mm-hmm. They're fighting hard. Good for you. Now Jerod Mayo can say, this is what I bring to the table. Because I've been trying to figure it out all year. I couldn't find a damn. Now I get it. Okay, the team doesn't quit on you. It's a low bar, George.
Yep.
It's a low bar.
Yeah. But
it's a bar nonetheless that he's hitting. Good for you, Jerod Mayo.
Look, a week after we saw them show up out of the bye week, absolutely flat, go through all the turmoil possible from the owners yelling at one another to him throwing his offensive coordinator under the bus to basically just everything falling apart. They showed up in the first half ready to play on the road against a Bills team coming off a huge win where this team, they could have quit on themselves right after that awful loss against the Cardinals.
That's right.
They jump out to a 14-0 lead. Ridiculous throw and catch from Drake May to Kayshon Boutte, where you see that flash of why Drake May is one of one and is a franchise quarterback, has that base, at least if everyone looks for. A great run by Ramondre Stevenson, 14 yards when it's long way to the end zone after they push themselves back and then jump out to that 14-0 lead. And the defense kept Josh Allen under 200 total yards of offense. You see all these positives about the team, but the same mistakes shine through. They were aggressive in the first half, got weirdly conservative in the second half.
It was.
DeMontre Jacobs, a poor offensive line play, showing up time and time again. A head coach that constantly preaches no repeat offenders is a repeat offender himself.
Man.
Now, he made a case where we've seen the reports come out of, depending on how the final 3 weeks go, Jerod Mayo could salvage his job. Jerod Mayo could really prove himself, make or break, over the final 3 games to continue to be the head coach. He put out something there where you have to look at it and go, was that enough? And we're going to break it all down. But that's what made this game interesting, Trav.
Yeah, this is a bigger conversation, I think, between you and I, because you're so right, bro. Like, on one hand, I'm saying, hey, this is what Jerod Mayo now I can consistently say brings to the table, because the sky was falling a week ago, and he got these guys regrouped, refocused, recalibrated, dialed in, and they showed up. Now, so on one hand, I'm giving them credit, but everything you said is true, because, George, this is what bad teams and bad coaches do.
Yeah.
There's no adjustments. There's mistakes. you can't finish games. That first half was fantastic. You didn't make any adjustments. You made mistakes. You shot yourself in the foot. Some of the play calls down the stretch were horrendous.
Yeah.
And you lose the game to a superior team and a superior coaching staff. So it's like, okay, you're going to bring this guy back based on that his team doesn't quit on him. Okay, I guess.
Yeah.
But then what's he going to do this offseason? He's going to read the how to be a great coach manual or something and then show up. And what? Next season he's going to make adjustments. His team's not going to make mistakes. They're not going to shoot themselves in the foot. My ass.
But they still keep doing that.
Of course they are.
Yep.
Of course they are. So that's why, again, I'm going to give them credit now. It is a moral victory Monday. They are, as in the Patriots, they are going to lose out. They did not get slaughtered in this game like I thought they would.
Yep.
The Chargers are not good enough to slaughter anyone. Okay, so this Charger game is going to look very similar to this one.
They still allowed 11 yards of rush. What do the Chargers do?
They run the ball
to death.
But George, if you're going to run the ball to death, right? And you're going to play that Harbaugh wants to punch you in the nose anyway.
Khalil Mack,
it's
Derwin
just going to be a
James,
physical.
they got talent on every level.
It's going to be a physical, low-scoring game in the middle of a Saturday afternoon that no one gives a rat's ass about.
Trav, you know what you are right now?
What?
Just when I thought I was out, they pulled me back.
That's
in.
right.
That's what you are right now. They're going to play him tight.
They are going to play him tight.
This isn't a good team.
They're going to play him tight, George, because the Chargers stylistically aren't blowing anyone out. So it'll be another tight loss at home.
I don't like this.
And then Josh Allen, they were really good defensively against him in this game. We'll see for that finale. Even if, let's say the Bills, because we learned Josh Allen's non-throwing hand has been broken apparently all season. Who the hell knew, right? Mm-hmm. So let's say, for the sake of this combo, you and I just talking here, Chiefs have the 1 seed wrapped up. Why in the hell would you play Josh Allen that last game, especially if you're not going to have a bye week, right? So I think we'll get Mitch Trubisky in that season finale. Mitch Trubisky, as a backup quarterback in this league, is high quality. That's a high-quality backup. Translation, Mitch Trubisky is good enough to beat you. But that's going to be a tight game. You just play a tight game against Josh Allen. You don't think that they could win that game against Trubisky, but I think it'll be tight and the Bills will win. So, yes, you lose out, but unlike the good rookie head coaches in this league, Dan Campbell comes to mind, winning his last 3 of his rookie campaign to make Lions fans feel good. What's your boy's name down there in Carolina? Their head coach.
Dave Canales, my guy.
I mean, hell, I'll be honest, George. I mean, if I'm a Panthers fan, I'm feeling pretty good about the future. Bryce Young can play, so we salvage that because I was looking like a bust. Okay, he can play. Yeah. He needs more help, but we're seeing
the team playing one possession games,
he
playing tight.
He can play.
Losing in overtime, winning in overtime.
Games. Yeah, bro. Like, if I'm a Panthers fan, even though they're losing, I'm like, okay, and they won this week, but I'm just saying, okay, I feel good about the future. The Patriots, look, even if these games are tight, hell, they've been tight all year for the most part.
Yeah. You're
still going to lose them, and I do not believe Jerod Mayo has done enough to keep his job. That's just me. That's just me. I don't think you can hang your hat on it.
Yeah.
But, hey, you got to give him credit here. You got to give him credit in this game.
I'm just not going to let 4 quarters against the Bills and really a first half against the Bills make me forget about the prior 14 games that we've seen.
Right.
Where the defense hasn't made any improvements. And you did. You showed up for one night, and I give that credit, especially to the players.
That's right.
Like, at this point now, falling to 3-12, every player in the locker room could have quit. Drake May could have quit.
Yep.
They're coming out. They are playing hard. They're executing. They're bouncing back from mistakes. And they're playing this game down to the wire and just at least keeping themselves in the mix.
That's right.
But I'm not going to forget about what I've seen the last 14 games because you finished strong the last 3. And to your point, like, there could be a Mitch Trubisky in the final game of the season. Now, if the Chiefs lose one game, the Bills have to win out, and then they can steal that 1 seed.
Right.
So don't be shocked if you see Josh Allen playing against the Patriots, a final game of the season.
Mm-hmm.
But this is a team still, look, jumped out to a 14-0 lead. Drake May looked phenomenal on that touchdown pass to Kayshon Boutte. You're seeing them be aggressive. 3rd and 4, they could have settled for that 7-yard slant. Nope.
Yeah.
Instead, he goes with a deep shot, puts the ball where only he can afford to put it, and Kayshon Boutte with the big-time catch.
Yes.
Ramondre Stevenson with the big-time run to make it 14-0.
Right.
Then you just saw the wheels fall off on this team. 46-yard touchdown run by James Cook. Poorly read by the linebackers on that zone run. And then a great cutback by James Cook.
He didn't get
tackling,
touched.
boom, he goes. Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Ran all over him. Bad fumbles. Bad interceptions. Drake May bouncing back, though. The offensive line that still can't block. Trev, how many times? And it is genius by defensive coordinators. Look, their tackles can't block, so put an edge guy out there and they'll win. Keep going with zero blitzes. Attack the A gap. Attack the B gap because they can't block up front with their tackles just overwhelmed their interior linemen, and that's what we saw the Bills do. And Drake may have to chuck it away, make mistakes, but also bounce back in a way too. And the Patriots, in a way, getting bailed out by defensive pass interferences. Like, you gotta factor in that it's Kaiir Elam starting out there. Who's a bust of a first-round pick, and they kept picking on him, and they kept giving him a second, a third, a fourth chance in the red zone to score. They capitalized. They were in the game. They came out of the gates ready. They had a clear game plan. They executed well. Drake May played good. Bounced back from some really bad mistakes as well and kept fighting in this game. But what worried me, Trav, is what do we see in the first half? Lining up to punt, 4 minutes left. Fake punt.
Yeah.
Awesome. You eat up like 2 minutes of clock.
Yep.
But then also, you have to call a timeout right after that because you weren't ready for that. Well-coached teams run the fake punt, get the offense back out there, and keep executing. You allow that Bills defense to catch their breath.
Right.
But then right before half, again, same thing. Screen to Pop Douglas. Pass to Austin Hooper. Downfield screen to Kayshon Boutte, where there was a mix there. You're staying aggressive. Then all of a sudden, down 10, 8.5 minutes to go, 4th and 6, you punt it.
Yeah.
When that should have been 4 down territory. Your 3rd down play call should have set you up to at least cut the down and distance in half. Alex Van Pelt doesn't do that. When you guys are down 2 scores, 4 minutes to go, 1st and 10, you're running the ball? Like, what? You don't have enough time. This team isn't nearly good enough to be allowing that. And it wasn't a wave. Like, you're kneeling it with 4 minutes to go because you know you're not going to win. Hey, look, I think the good thing for this team is that they lost because guess what? The Raiders won. Thank you to Mac Jones and the Jaguars.
Yes.
So now they're picking 2nd overall. What's best for the long term of this team is a top 3 pick, especially top 2.
Sure.
In a draft, there's only 2 QBs where you could trade back, accrue picks.
Oh, Jesus.
And then you can they need picks everywhere. And we don't got to get into that, Trev. Don't worry.
We were doing so good. I mean,
At least you're in the mix. You can get whatever you want.
We were on the same page.
Hey, at 2, you can still take Travis Hunter. Shoot, at 2, you could trade back 1 spot,
right.
get more
you
picks,
could.
and still get Travis Hunter.
But then we both win.
Now I'm talking your language. Okay.
Yes.
But the point being of this team in the flashes, they played good for a half.
Yeah.
It's good coaching, well-coached teams about 4 quarters.
Yep.
And Jerod Mayo, time and time again, has let this franchise down with his coaching. The personnel has let this franchise down. That's Elliott Wolf up front.
I agree.
This is not enough. And this is on the heels of the report coming out by Ian Rappaport where the Crafts want to keep Jerod Mayo. They believe he's a leader for the organization, for their future, and they knew it would be a multi-year process to get this thing right. That is their stance right now. Now, if things go off the rails, if they start to really struggle, if he loses a locker room in the last couple of games of the season, we've seen this thing turn. But as of now, the Patriots believe Jerod Mayo is their leader for the future. If they really start to struggle, they've been struggling.
They've been struggling. That doesn't mean...
It's the Crafts putting these caveats in every way to get the Wolves off, but leave themselves an out. Just stop. Stop talking to Ian Rappaport. Stop doing all this. Watch your head coach and make a determination for what's best for the franchise and the team. And I don't believe it's bringing Jerod Mayo back. As no fault of his own. He's only been coaching since 2019 in the NFL. He was thrusted into being the head coach a year before he should have been. And also, he was done a disservice by ownership by baking it into his contract because then Bill Belichick did not want to mentor him into becoming a head coach.
Right.
He was done a disservice by ownership by giving him a front office led by Bill Belichick carryovers.
Right.
When the whole reason you fired Bill Belichick is because of him and his personnel decisions. He's not a Dan Campbell, who's been coaching in the NFL since 2010, was an interim head coach before, was an associate head coach before he was given the Lions job. He's not a Kevin O'Connell, who's been coaching since 2015 in the NFL, was an offensive coordinator on multiple stops and calling plays. He's not a Dave Canales, who's been coaching in the NFL since 2010 and was an offensive coordinator and had different stops with the Seahawks in numerous roles before he took over the Carolina Panthers. He didn't have that type of experience. He was done a disservice. He was rushed into the job, and the Crafts fumbled all of this. So I don't want this good performance to put the wool over the Crafts' eyes of, we did it right, we got it right, we're going to stick with them. Because the bigger picture, what's important for the franchise, and actually important for the franchise, is what's best for the quarterback, where you know you have a franchise guy.
Yeah, man, there's a lot to unpack there.
Yeah, I just went off. I did not expect it to go down that way. But hey, here we are.
He was set up for failure. Okay, so I agree with you there. I want to go back on the struggling aspect. If the team's not struggling, we know what that's translated to. It's not wins and losses. You've been the one preaching that to me all along. It's not that. It's if the team, it's the effort. It's if these guys quit. Now, I'll say this.
But that's a bare minimum.
One place where I guess, kind of going to piggybacking off what you're saying, how you didn't set Jerod Mayo up for success to begin with, where I agree, yes. But in one way, he is set up to succeed in this sort of, well, if they're not quitting on him. That's what that means. When they say struggle down the stretch, it just means if these guys are getting smoked and they lay down on Jerod Mayo, then you have to fire them. That's what that means. So let's cut the shack here. But one thing that he has going for him, George, and just stay with me here.
Yeah.
This is the benefit of having a young team, okay? If you have a team full of vets, what are they, 3-12? You're 3-12? I mean, are you kidding me? They have both feet on the beach right now. They are thinking of vacation and those Mai Tais, all right? But they have a young team. They have hungry guys who, quite frankly, many of them probably shouldn't even be in the league. I mean, are we being honest here? Some of these guys are practice squad guys. But you have a rookie quarterback. You got a lot of young pieces. Some of them can play. Most of them can't. But they're going to hang on to every word. The heartfelt pump-up speeches at 3-12 still work with the youths, with the youngsters on the team.
Yeah.
Just trying to put good tape together so they can get jobs.
Yes.
Just trying to show the coaching staff we still care. We're still engaged. And that young lion leader you have at quarterback, for sure, ain't laying down. He is out there balling like he's trying to get a wild card spot. And they're going to follow suit to that. We're rolling with Drake. That's our leader. So that's a testament to Drake. But my big picture is this is the benefit of a young team. You stink. Your season's been over. But they're young. They're impressionable. They're hungry. They're trying to prove it. So you can keep them engaged. Kudos to Jerod Mayo for that. But I caution the Crafts this. You fire these coordinators. You keep Jerod Mayo. Okay? I mean, you want to go out and get some big-time free agents, don't you? You want to go out and spend some of that money, don't you? Mm-hmm. You want to get some stars, don't you? Okay. You start bringing them in. I want Travis Hunter. That dude's a star. That's a Heisman Trophy. He's been coached by Prime. You don't think Travis Hunter feels himself? So you have big-time free agents who you just spent money on. For the sake of the convo, George, entertain me. Travis Hunter in here, who thinks he's God's gift to football, and he is. These are, all of a sudden now you got personalities. You got guys with expectations. You got stars. Put 3-12 on them. Put 3-12. Go spend some money, get some stars here, get Travis Hunter here, and go 3-12. And tell me if that team's going to be engaged. So some of this, George, is timing and personnel. He doesn't have talent, but he's got a lot of young boys. Okay, they're not going to quit on you, dog. But if that's a calling card, be careful with that. Because next season, you want some weapons for Drake May. They're going to be expensive, right? All right. Let's see if you can keep them engaged. That's my issue with keeping a Jerod Mayo. That's my only issue. If your calling card is, well, they didn't quit on him, that's a wrong calling card.
Yeah, it's a bare minimum.
That's right. That's going to get him fired and get you another 3-12 or whatever the hell they are.
My calling card is whatever side of the ball is that coach's expertise
Facts.
needs to be buttoned up. And we've seen one game of that, and it's because the secondary played well and kept Josh Allen confused the entire game.
That's right.
My calling card is that your game management and your situational football is spot on. And that's not the case when you run a fake punt.
Yeah.
But then right after that, you have to call a timeout because you guys obviously have too much chaos going on.
Right.
When you're having delay of game calls and the play clock's running out, you're sending a receiver in motion with a second left. That is communicational. That is execution errors, and that's on your offensive coordinator.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're all of a sudden running – read options with your quarterback, great, getting first downs, and then that disappears in the second half. Same thing with QB sneaks. That's on the head coach. There's so many errors. When you can't handle yourself at the podium or on the radio, that's on the head coach. And a lot of this is also on the front office. So there still has to be a complete overhaul in New England. Like, they can finish every game like this, where it's tight, good first half.
Yeah.
They're playing close. New coordinators have to be there. New head coach, in my opinion.
I agree.
And new general manager. So I'll put it at that. Hey, if you're enjoying the football conversation, Foxborough Rush airs every Monday with game reactions, Wednesday with draft talk, and Fridays as well. You can find on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, Spotify, Apple Music, and wherever else you get your podcast. And if you're watching on Nesson's YouTube page, hit the subscribe button as well. All right, let's bring him on now. Sean McGuire of Nesson.com, covering the game, watching this one from his humble abode. Sean, what do you think of that Patriots performance, jumping out to that 14-0 lead, and then they became the Pats, losing 24-21?
Yeah, I mean, it was a surprising start, but I think the end result was exactly what we expected, right? I mean, but yeah, to see them have such success, in that first quarter, 14-0 lead, less than a minute into the second quarter, it was definitely promising. I think it was, that was, and I'm sure we'll get into this a ton, but that was a step in the right direction. I think it did show that the coaching staff got the players ready to go after a pretty turbulent week. I think that's fair to say. So yeah, it was a good start, and the result was as expected.
I hate to give props to someone I've been calling to get whacked all season, but I thought DeMarcus Covington, I thought this was the best defensive game he's called all year. The Bears game was probably the best result, but the Bears were just a mess. I almost give more credit to the Bears sucking than I do the Patriots getting 9 sacks or whatever it was in that weird game. But DeMarcus Covington, I thought, against Josh Allen and the Bills in this game, I thought he did a tremendous job. I bring him up because Alex Van Pelt on the other side, I thought this was one of the worst called games in the second half I've seen all year.
Yeah.
What the hell happened from your assessment? What happened in that second half? Why'd they get so damn conservative? First half, taking chances. The energy's there. Everything's flowing and rocking and rolling. Second half, it looked like, it turned midnight and Alex Van Pelt turned back into a pumpkin. What happened from your eyes?
Yeah, I think that's a lot of what we've said all year at this point is just the inconsistencies across the board. And I think the inconsistencies when it came to aggressiveness really were pretty, eye-catching today. This isn't the exact example you were just referring to, but to go for it, 4th and 1, fake the punt on your 23-yard line, and then all of a sudden, 10 minutes, 8 minutes left in the game to punt at midfield on 4th and 6 or 4th and 8, whatever that is. I think that was really one of the more glaring aspects when it came to the lack of aggressiveness. But yeah, you're right. And I will say, it was, they did call some designed quarterback runs, which I know was a big topic this week. So it was good to see that. But yeah, it's just it's tough. the offensive line, that's an issue as well. They did, they ran the ball decent, fine. But I think it comes down. You turn the ball over on each of your first 3 possessions.
Right.
It doesn't, the in terms of aggressiveness that you were talking about. That's quickly overshadowed if you're gonna fumble, interception, fumble for a touchdown.
Right.
Yeah, I like you bring up the designed runs. what happened that AVP all of a sudden got the green light? Do you think that's ownership coming in saying, Jonathan Kraft maybe with his notes like, Alex, please call designed runs?
Yeah.
Because, again, when it was asked of Jerod Mayo, it sounds like that's something he's pushing, but the head coach of the offense didn't do. To me, when I see these designed runs, I think a higher power is intervening, that being Jonathan Kraft.
Can you do Jonathan Kraft voice again before Sean answers, please?
Hey, Alex, right here, number 3 on my list. Designed runs with Drake May on shore yards, please. Thank you. I'm sure it's not that civil.
Yeah, I think of it like Jerod probably put his foot down in some regard, in terms of if he really wanted this, and rightfully so. I think at some point, that's when you are the head coach, that's the power you hold. So, if you do want that, and if you're talking about it in meetings for 5 or 6 weeks and it doesn't, nothing is called, then I think you can put your foot down. I don't think it was the right thing to do to call it out in public and then put your foot down. But that's a different conversation.
Esmizzle, this is what I want to know. I've been calling this Moral Victory Monday. And I just want to know if you're in that same camp. Or are you one of those people that thinks, hey, a loss is a loss, your ass is grass, Seabass. Which side of the fence are you on?
I don't know if I'm going to go as far as to say moral victory, but I will without a doubt say, step in the right direction and all those other cliches. Mm-hmm. I just think when it comes down to it, I mean, they enter the game as 14-point underdogs. So to lose by 3 is kind of, I guess maybe is a little bit of a win. But you think about those 3 second half turnovers. Yeah. And I mean, they had the game. They could have won this game. I mean, they were playing a depleted Buffalo defense. Josh Allen definitely did not look right. The Patriots also, I don't know if fans will admit it and things, but the Patriots definitely benefited from a few calls, in key spots. I know there's a few DPIs and a few other things, but so the Patriots really had this game in their grasp. They could have won it. And I think, without the, lateral touchdown, that's 7 points off the board right there. So I'm slow to call it a moral victory because of the fact, like, they still shot themselves in the foot time and time again. So I don't want to go that far. Also, it's week 16. I think moral victories are, it should be phased out by this point. At this point, they're 3 and whatever they are. 12. So I just can't call it a moral victory at this point.
The only way there would have been a moral victory is if Vidarian Lowe and Demontre Jacobs all of a sudden look like Orlando Pace. And
Jonathan Ogden.
Yeah, thank you, exactly. And Jonathan Ogden, the 2 greatest offensive tackles of all time. And then I'll be like, man, this is something here. But to your point, Sean, and I like that you point that out. Even the first touchdown, a dime. And I think calling it a dime is a disservice. Yeah. Just a dart from Drake May to Kayshon Boutte. But that was set up by a defensive pass interference that moved the chains for the Patriots. When they finally scored a second time with Hunter Henry, that was after 2 separate defensive pass interferences on Kaiir Elam, like a guy that's a struggling corner. And I don't put it to them. I'm not going to give them credit of they were looking at Kaiir Elam and going, we're going to pick on him. It was, those are the designs. We're going to throw here to this receiver. And number 5 happened to be in the vicinity and in coverage. But that's it. Now, look, and the same way, Trav and I gave credit to them when they beat the Jets. Like, you were facing a team that left it open at the end, and you're able to close the gap and find a way to win. That's what you want from football teams. The Bills kept letting the Pats into this game, and they found a way to stick in it. But the one thing, like the moral victory I give, and it continues to be all around Drake May, the interception he threw in the end zone was awful. Threw towards the front pylon. There was no one around. There had to have been miscommunication, a mistake with that throw. But the way he bounces back, and even on the final touchdown pass to Hunter Henry, a false start penalty sets him back, drops the shotgun snap. But he bounced back from that and finally found Hunter Henry with all those extra chances. At least when you give them enough opportunities, they punch it in. And Sean, for Drake May, what I love about him is that he just never panics. He keeps his composure. He never seems to get shook. He keeps playing for the next play, and that's what you want in a franchise quarterback.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And I don't know if you guys got to hear much of the post-game stuff, but I really like to hear Drake. He takes such accountability, and I think, based on these last few weeks here about, all these Jerod post-game pressers, that's the accountability has been passed around a little bit. And, so to hear Drake do that is, so refreshing. And just, pretty much he just said, I have to be better. And he was talking about the red zone, issues, that interception falls in there. Obviously, they needed 9 plays from when they had first and goal at the 8. They needed 9 plays in that final 2 minutes to score. So that falls under as well. And he just said, I think that falls on the quarterback. At some point, that's on the quarterback to, elevate the offense and score a touchdown. And he sounded like a franchise quarterback. He sounded exactly like what you want your franchise guy to say. So in addition to, what he put on the field, and I agree, another step forward at this point, it's just kind of the same conversation every day or every game. Drake looked good. Christian Gonzalez shut another receiver down and the Patriots lost. It's like we're playing the hits, but, Drake did look good. And, he played in cold weather. I know that was a little bit of a pre-draft.
Coldest game of his career.
Coldest game of his career. I know that was a pre-draft critique, I would say. And to for him to have that success on the ground, both with the design runs and the scrambles, I think he looked Josh Allen-ish against Josh Allen. Yep. So I think that was good.
Yeah, I thought he outplayed Josh Allen, to be honest. Go ahead, George.
Yeah.
Well, and I like everything you point out, and it's also the accountability, what you're talking about. He said, the conversations about our coaching staff, I think it's some BS, to be quite honest. Coach Mayo, we got his back. He coaches us hard. He wants us to win. We all want to win. And then he said, I think we're building something good, building something that feels right here. I'm proud to be a Patriot. That answer came after, too, where he said how disappointed he was in everything as well. You said it, Sean. This guy, he's a franchise quarterback. Now, the Patriots just need to find a wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2, left tackle, right tackle, center, maybe a left guard. They need to find a tight end because Hunter Henry's getting up there in age. A running back 2, an edge rusher, another edge rusher, a cornerback 2, a free safety, and an off-ball linebacker as well. I think altogether that's 13 positions they need to find.
So, hey, Sean, there's a guy in college that, 2 birds, 1 stone.
I know how you feel about him.
Yeah. Number 2 overall pick for a guy that can do 2 things at once. Sign me up. Great first name, too.
Yeah, don't worry. We'll trust it with the front office that decided to draft, Jalen Polk over Ladd McConkey. Who had Ladd McConkey? Where Ladd McConkey had 6 catches, 87 yards. Jalen Polk today played just 3 offensive snaps. 3. So, we'll trust that guy. Hey, if you're enjoying the show, be sure to check out today's episode of Nesson's Daily Sports Podcast. Boston has entered the chat. We talk Patriots as well as many other sports in Boston and, of course, nationally as well. You can find on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, Spotify, and YouTube, and wherever else you get your podcasts. If you're watching on Nesson's YouTube page, hit the subscribe button as well.
All right, Esmeezy, let me ask you this, because Georgia and I talked about this to start the show, the reports that, Jerod Mayo is still being evaluated in these last 3 games. What the hell does that mean? Because I translate that as it's not wins and losses. We know this team sucks. They're going to lose out. We already know. It's effort. It's does he have them ready to play? Check 1 for game 1 of the final 3. With Josh Allen on the road, this team hung in there. The mistakes were still there. The lack of adjustments were still there. Everything we complain about every week was still there. But if he's being evaluated on the effort from his team, which I believe that's what those reports translates to, then so far so good. Do you agree with me, or is it wins and losses in your mind?
No, I don't think it's wins and losses. I think it's pretty much barring a catastrophe at this point. He loses a locker room. He, spits and throws up on himself multiple more times in post-game press conferences. I think it all comes back to that stuff, his messaging. I think it comes down to that stuff much more than does wins and losses.
Man, performance was good, but there's a lot more to being a head coach than it should be on just the performance of making sure you guys don't quit. Do you think a performance like this one does stand out to the Crafts? I believe it would. This is the handpicked guy. Yeah. They constantly back him through the media. Do you think this performance by the Patriots against the Bills stood out to the Crafts, Sean?
Yeah, I without a doubt do. And I actually wrote something kind of similar. And I can picture, Robert Kraft at the end of the season talking about, we went to Buffalo and no one gave us a chance. And, we had him down with, I can see that entire thing happening very vividly. So I think in Robert Kraft's eyes, this performance does help. And if Jerod went out and got beat by 42-14,
Right.
I don't think that would come across the same way. It's just it was competitive. They had it down. The fact that they could call it a game with a few minutes left. I think that sits very well with Robert Kraft. I don't know if I would go as far as to say the same thing. I know you guys talked a little bit earlier about kind of the same. I don't know if I would go far and say that, but in terms of Robert Kraft, yes, I would say this fares well.
Well,
Who would buy that though? I kept Jerod Mayo because they played well against the Bills. I completely ignored the past 14 weeks where they've been outcoached every single way. Who would buy that?
he could do it twice, George. You got to give him some credit here. Listen, like I said this as
If he
to
plays
George.
the Bills close twice?
Yes, listen. I said this to George earlier.
They're 3-11 coming into today.
I'm interested in your thoughts on this. My theory is this was obviously a huge game to keep close, right? I don't think the Chargers are blowing out anyone. They're not built for that. So you're likely going to lose a tight game at home to the Chargers, just in the style in which they play. They'll bully you, but they're not going to blow you out of the water. And then I think, look, my personal opinion, I think Kansas City's going to have the 1 seed. I think we're going to see Mitch Trubisky here in Gillette, personally. But if you can play the Bills tight again, I mean, what the hell? Right? What do you think?
Yeah, I think it does. And that's so, like, when I say that, I do think of, I think that it has, they still have to look all right, and they still have to look competitive over the final 2 weeks from this point on. But I think that this game, this Week 16 game, especially coming off, what a disaster it was in Week 15, I think that, kind of is a step. It's a step in the right direction. And so now they put together another competitive performance in 17 and 18 after that.
Right.
I can see that being like the calling, like what, Robert Kraft, falls back on, I guess, when he's talking about, I kept Jerod because, we finished the season strong the last 3 weeks and that sort of thing. So
it's our worst nightmare.
I'm not saying I agree with this. I'm just saying I could see it playing out like that.
Let me remove myself from projecting this frustration on you guys. Good caveat at the end. You're doing us service, Sean. That is the right answer because we have to put ourselves in the shoes of a Robert Kraft.
Right.
The Patriots lose 31-17 to the Chargers, and then they lose to Mitch Trubisky 21-20. Or God forbid, they beat Mitch Trubisky.
Where are you getting
24-21
31 from the Chargers who run? They're 3 yards in a cloud of dust.
They just put up 34 on the Broncos. That's the best defense in football.
I don't know.
Yes.
I just see them running the rock.
Hey, they still let up over 10 yards a rush to James Cook. You take away his long run, which I know Jerod Mayo loves to do.
Yeah.
James Cook still averaged almost 7 yards per rush.
Yeah.
Like this team was dominated at the line of scrimmage. They get no pass rush.
I just
and they're
don't
going to be
see
facing the two best tackles, one of the best tackle combinations in football, and Joe Alt and Rashawn Slater.
Facts.
A team that still loves to run the ball. A team in the Chargers that was having a rough first half, and they identified a really old rule to steal 3 points, and that gave them mojo going into the locker room, and they carried it to a win. Like, that's who they're matching up with. It's not just the Chargers and the style of that they play.
Right.
It's a well-coached team with a really good quarterback, a dominant run game, and a good offensive line, and a receiver that could constantly get open. Let's see how Christian Gonzalez matches up with them, though, because that is a key factor. And then on the other end, Khalil Mack's still an impact player. They have a rookie at corner who's been good. Derwin James, when healthy, is still an impact guy. Like, that's a thing. I just can't remove it. It's just there has to be a change made in the front office, in my opinion. I went over it earlier in the week, but from Elliot Wolf to Matt Groh, the top 4 guys that run the personnel department are all Bill Belichick carryovers.
Yeah.
You fired Bill Belichick because of the general manager bill, not because of the head coach. Get rid of the guys that you carried over from his regime, especially the Matt Grohs and the Elliot Wolfs. But with all this, Sean, like this is in the same way of what they were doing with the draft. Their decision with the head coach this offseason determines the next 5-10 years of this franchise. And if they keep Jerod Mayo around too long, they can spoil it all. Because Drake May could be a Justin Herbert, where you finally get the head coach right and he flourishes, or he could be a Matt Stafford, where he's going to be talented. He's going to make another franchise a lot of success and a lot of money. That's why I can't buy these last 3 weeks. I think it's just you are just lying to yourself and to all the people you claim that are fans just like you if you keep them.
Right.
Yeah, you'd be putting way too much stock in the last 3 weeks as opposed to the first 15 or whatever it is. And I
Right?
don't agree. I don't disagree with what you're saying, George. And I even agree with what you're saying. But I do think, like, coming out of the bye, we did say if they could look good after the bye, Jerod is going to solidify his standing. And, just hearing the reports, hearing, Schefter and Rappaport and Diana Rossini again, pretty much saying Jerod Mayo is returning barring catastrophe is just, I think that's going to be how it plays out. And I think, since the last time you and I talked, George, whatever it was, Tuesday, the Mike Vrabel report came out. I think it was Tom Curran that said, Mike Vrabel would be interested in, coaching the Patriots. And that, like, completely changes everything in my mind, because in my mind, you're not firing Jerod just because of his failures after one season. You're also doing it because, hey, we can get a guy that is going to, we can get a guy who makes a ton of sense for us, another red jacket guy for you. And he's a good coach. He's a much better coach than Jerod has shown through, 16 weeks at this point.
Yep.
And he can, he's a guy that would come in and set the culture and all that. So to me, it's not just, that wouldn't be firing a first-year coach to bring in another first-year coach. That would be doing it because, hey, we feel really confident in that. So I do think that, like, the Vrabel thing should change. I don't know if it will. I think it should change things pretty drastically. And because you're not going to get the chance to, I want to say you're not going to get the chance to make up for the mistake that you made last offseason. I know there was a lot that went into that. You were, paying Belichick. It was in Jerod's contract, all that sort of stuff. But whatever, that's over with. Like this, this is, you have a chance to right your wrongs by hiring Vrabel. And I think that you should do that. And regardless of how the last 2 weeks goes, to tie back into the point that we were making earlier.
If you're enjoying the football conversation, Foxborough Rush airs every Monday with game reactions, Wednesday with draft talk, and Fridays as well. That's available on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, Spotify, Apple Music, and Amazon, wherever else you get your podcasts. And if you're watching on Nesson's YouTube page, hit the subscribe button as well.
You're preaching to the choir here. We agree with you. And those reports are so funny, too, barring catastrophe, as if this season.
That's pretty much what it's saying.
Yeah. Like, this season is a G-damn catastrophe. So what do they mean by that? Let me ask you this. I mean, look, thank God that they didn't win the game. And they're still picking right now it's number 2. So give me a mock draft, because you know what I'm doing. I already wrote my letter to Santa. I want Travis Hunter. Where are you going here right now? If the draft is tomorrow, give me your draft pick here.
You're not going to like this.
Speak with your chest, Sean.
Travis. I should say Travis. You're not going to like this, George. I think you're not going to be as against it. I think if they land 1 or 2, I think they trade back. I think it gets a little bit different if you land at 3, but I think if they land 1 or 2, you trade back, and it's not like it's not going to be a haul like we've seen from these other, from past seasons. I don't think, anyway. It's just the quarterback class isn't rated that highly. The overall class, I don't think, is rated as highly as past years. But I think if they land 1 or 2, and I've said this for a few weeks now, that they trade back to, 4, 5, 6 area.
Get another.
So you have Travis Hunter on the board. You trading back?
Yes.
I think they will do that. Yes. I think they should do that.
You have a top 2 pick. There are 2 quarterbacks, Shedeur Sanders, Cam Ward. 2 teams that need a quarterback, the Raiders and the Giants. 2 teams that would trade up to take them. This team, Travis, I like tongue-in-cheek, laid it out for both you guys. They have 13 players that they need to find, like 13 positions they need to fill. And you could joke Travis Hunter plays both ways. He doesn't play both ways 100%. In the NFL, if he does that, man, I will be mind blown. Because what I love about the kid and why he won the Heisman is what he was doing, 120 snaps a game, 130 snaps a game. But when you have that many holes, you could trade back and get more draft assets. You need to do it because this roster right now is just littered. They have an offensive line where 4 of their 5 starters shouldn't be on a 53-man roster. Like, that takes multiple drafts, but that takes multiple throws at the board. They need draft assets. They need receivers, plural. They need offensive linemen, plural. They need edge rushers, plural. They need corners, plural. They have a quarterback, and they got a slot receiver and a good running back when he doesn't fumble.
That's easy. What scenario would
I
you
love the
feel?
size.
What scenario would you feel comfortable taking Travis Hunter?
How about like? So are you saying in a trade back
What
scenario?
scenario
You're picking-
would you feel comfortable taking Travis Hunter?
He falls to you at 4 or 5.
George, don't lead the witness. What scenario?
I was going to say the exact same thing. If he falls to you at 4 or 5, I think you do that. I think that quarterbacks go 1 and 2. Maybe you get some team to jump for a third quarterback. I don't know. Maybe you get them to go for an offensive tackle or something like that, or someone else. Maybe they like their wide receiver out of Arizona more, so they take him at 3, and then the Patriots are at 4, and Travis Hunter's there. I think at that point I would say, all right.
The kid from Arizona would go before Travis Hunter? That's what you think?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying maybe you find someone that comes in and thinks, hey, we like him as a wide receiver.
No one's thinking that. No one's going to think that. No one's going to think that. So you're giving me 4 or 5. You're giving me 4 or 5 range for Travis Hunter. You would feel good.
Yeah, he's following you at that point.
So you're just seeing him at 2 as too high. What about at 3? That's too high. You would trade back.
It's not that he's too high. It's that if you're picking at 2 because of the quarterbacks in the draft, you can trade back and accrue more picks. The thing with the Patriots, if they lose out and they are assured a top 3 pick, that is a great spot to be. They win a game. They can mess around and end up picking 7th overall or 6th overall.
Oh,
you know what sucks about that, Travis? They're not going to have a shot at Travis Hunter.
No.
They're going to end up taking Kelvin Banks, but they're not going to accrue more picks on the back end.
Right.
That's a way to look at it. It's not the price is too rich. This team's needs. Trav, if they signed a Jonah Williams, who could have been a right or left tackle, let's put him at left tackle. Let's put him back after he played the previous season at right. If they drafted Caden Wallace and he was serviceable at right tackle, cool. Offensive line, that's taken care of. If they went out in free agency right now, or this last offseason and got a Darnell Mooney, just would have been a wide receiver 1 for this room, but would be a good 2 down the road.
Sure.
If they went out and got him and they still had a Pop Douglas, and these tight ends have been phenomenal. They really have. If all of that happened, and then you're watching this defense, you go, Gonzalez is great, but they really need a corner too. And guess what? They need another playmaker. Then Travis Hunter would make sense. But they have so many holes. And the hypothetical of Caden Wallace being a good right tackle, he's a 4th-round pick. Those guys take a few years to be a good impact player. This roster is really bad. The Jaguars roster is bad, but they can use a Travis Hunter because they have a Brian Thomas Jr. But just what that kid can be. And I'm not sure. Now, if he's going to be a full-time receiver and you think he's going to be a Garrett Wilson, then, I mean, he's worth the top 3 pick to me. I don't know what he's going to be yet, but nonetheless, they need so much with this team.
I tell you what, S-Mac, one thing George said to me that I could get behind would be if someone wanted to move up to 2 to take, Cam Ward, we'll call it, to take Cam Ward.
3
and you
Travis
move to 3 and you get Travis Hunter. And what would you get there, GM George? Like maybe a 4th or something? If you move back a slot, what else would you acquire? You would get Travis Hunter. You would obviously gain a pick too, right?
Yes, but here's the thing of where's that team moving up from? Like, is it the Titans leapfrogging the Jaguars? Right. Or is it the Raiders? Right now they sit at 6. You're moving all the way from 6 to 2.
Sure.
That's this year's first, next year's first, and another day 2 pick in this upcoming draft.
No, I'm saying 3. I'm saying 1
If you flip
spot.
with 3, so I mean, the Jaguars wouldn't do that, but say if it's a Titan sitting at 3 and they move up 1 spot, so someone else can't leapfrog them.
Yeah.
I don't think you get more than you get a day 2 pick. You get more than a 4th-round pick.
Okay.
Maybe you'd get another first, but that'd be really hard to sell by moving up 1 spot.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, this is where a good general manager has to play the leverage game of going, hey, I got other guys calling me. You got to move up 1, or else I'm going to trade this pick away, and someone else is going to take Cam Ward, Shedeur Sanders.
S-Mac, are you good with that? If this team were at 2 as they are now, and they trade back 1 slot to acquire whatever they get in that trade, and take a Travis Hunter at 3. Would you feel comfortable with that, or you're not good with that either?
No, I think right before you asked a question, I was going to say the exact same thing. Like if a dream scenario for the Patriots should be they land 1 or 2. The Giants play the Colts, so I think there's like a possibility. And I don't know, they're not going to beat the Eagles last week, but just to get back to the point, if the Patriots land 1 or 2, you flip that back. If you flip it back to like 3 after the first 2 quarterbacks go, take Travis Hunter there, I'm for it. I think you end up with better than a 4th-round pick as well. I mean, if you go from 1 to 3, I think you probably get at least a 2nd-rounder. I would say probably the same thing if you go from 2 to 3, just because it would be that team that doesn't want to get leapfrogged. So you pick up a 2nd-round pick.
Yeah. We're good. We're good, Smeezy. We back on good terms, dog. I knew I could count on you. That. I knew I could count on you.
Man, if you're sitting at 3, right now as it is, the Titans sitting at 6. But see, if you're at 3, both quarterbacks are gone, you're trading up for Travis Hunter. Like, that's what it is at that point.
Yeah.
It's Travis Hunter, Tate McMillan, Mason Graham, Abdul Carter. And like the Jaguars can use that. The Panthers certainly can use an Abdul Carter. But they have a good chance of him falling them when there's a Nick Scorton in this draft that they can take.
Yep.
When there's a Will Johnson, which they need. So that's what it is. It's there's so many variables at play. But top 2, that's a money spot to be in.
Yeah,
because when you are picking 2nd and you're in that Cam Ward range, depending who takes Shador at 1, that's a whole different world, man. That's a whole different world because Cam Ward, what he can be. You need quarterbacks. We literally see, we're watching it with the Patriots, what a good quarterback can do for a team.
Yes, sir.
When you get someone that's dynamic and game changing, more than a game manager, but an actual impact player.
Yep.
Like that's what Drake May is.
Yep.
Changes the whole trajectory of the franchise. That's what's big. And to your point, T, like you got to bring in, you want draft guys, you want to bring in free agents. You're bringing in free agents. The head coach might not be here the year after, though.
Right.
They're going to sign you this offseason. He might not be next. Or you bring in a free agent, and it's Mike Vrabel. Hey, look, man, look at what I did with these Tennessee rosters. He always has them overperform. He has them overcompete. He has them overachieve. Get him with a good general manager, Ray Agnew out of Detroit, who played for the Pats, who learned with the Rams, has been with the Lions the last 4 years, but isn't attached to the Lions in longevity, likely wants to lead his own front office.
Right.
Hey, Ray, come over. You got your quarterback. You got a top 3 pick. You have $132 million in cap space. You have Mike Vrabel as your head coach, who's just like a Dan Campbell. More, bottled in, but just like a Dan Campbell, is good delegator and gets his teams to compete. That's what you want.
Yep. Amen.
What is it?
Can't screw it up.
Right. Well, what could go wrong?
Literally, three words could screw it up, Sean. Run it back. That can screw it up.
That could screw it up.
Hey, Sean, I appreciate you sticking on longer than we expected you to, but this is a fun talk, man. Moral Victory Mondays.
I enjoyed it.
Ventilation Mondays, as we call it. Get the vents out. It makes you feel good.
Yeah.
And we didn't talk about your Cowboys possibly taking Ashton Ginty with, a top 15 pick. But that could happen. Maybe it wouldn't be the worst.
He would like that.
Whatever.
He's so over the Cowboys.
He's Travis Thomas. He's Sean McGuire from George Biloxi. Thank you, guys, for listening to Foxborough Rush and making us a part of your day. Hey, make sure to check out the latest episode of Boston's Entered the Chat as well. We talk Steve Belichick to UNC. We talk Monday Night Football. And, of course, we talk Jerod Mayo and the Patriots as well. That's Boston's Entered the Chat, wherever you get your podcast. He's S-Mac. He's Double T. I'm GB. This is Foxborough Rush. We'll see you guys next time. Have a good one, everyone.